A very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar session. My name is Musa Simelani. I'm coming to you live from Johannesburg. I'm not alone. I'm accompanied by my colleague, Jerry Lemekwane, and he'll be supporting me as we discuss and talk about how to log into the dashboard. This is our help desk #1 most requested ticket. It means that there's some room for us to understand better how we can better manage our passwords, how we can recover them when we forget them, and how to log into the dashboard more successfully. Before we get to that, colleagues, I would like us to talk about some agreements and expectations for this webinar. First of all, if you lose signal and leave the Zoom session, please do not worry. You can click the link and rejoin the session as soon as your connection is restored. If you have any questions, please use the question and answer button. These will be answered in the Q&A option during the presentation. If the answers to the Q&A are not clear, raise your hand during the Q&A period at the end of the session. All webinars are recorded, and within approximately 24 hours after the presentation, all attendees will receive A, the attendance register, B, the link to the recording, and C, the presentation slides. All attendees are on mute during the session, but if an error occurs, you are requested to kindly mute yourself and avoid disturbances during the webinar. We value your feedback, so please take time to answer the poll question during or after the session. And also please note that the DDD webinars are recorded and are published on our DDD Dashboard YouTube channel. This allows other education officials to access the recording in their own time and benefit from the content provided. Should you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact the help desk. And we're also very proud to announce, colleagues, that the DDD dashboard is still 0 rated during the lockdown period. So you are able to use the DDD dashboard and download reports absolutely with no charge if you're on Vodacom, MTN, or Telkom. And with that, colleagues, let's look at the learning objectives for today's session. And it's just 3 of them. Number 1, understand how to log in to the DDD dashboard. Secondly, understand how to successfully reset your password. And finally, review tips on logging in successfully every time. And with that, colleagues, let's get started with our first piece on logging on to the dashboard. And as you can imagine, the dashboard is, of course, a resource that's available online. So because it's available online, unfortunately, if you do not have data or do not have internet access, it's something that we won't be able to access. However, like we said, at this moment, it is 0 rated and it's free and won't be costing you any data. Right? That's the first thing you'll need, internet. Secondly, you will need an internet browser. We have found Chrome to be quite faster. However, if all you have or what you have access to is Internet Explorer, that will work very well as well. And of course, the DDD dashboard username and password that you were given at registration of your access to the dashboard. And if you have forgotten these or have lost access to these, we'll talk about how you can recover it. Okay, and of course, as you can see there, that's the picture of Chrome. You would press on Chrome and then you would type the address. And of course, the DBE dashboard address is www.dbedashboard.co.za. However, if you are in the Free State, you would use www.ddd.fsdoe.fs.gov.za. Now, remember, colleagues, as I've said, okay, so if you're on Free State, that's one way to access. However, you can also access by going to the MS portal, which is far more recommended. On the MS portal, there's a tab there that allows you to access if you are in the Free State. And this picture here, colleagues, let's just stop for a minute and look at this. When you are putting in your dashboard address, this is the first point of failure. This is the first point where we might find ourselves having issue. You want to put the DDD password if you could just allow me to get a laser pointer here. You want to put the DDD password on the address bar up here, all right? Not on the search. So this is the address bar with the arrow, and this is the search with the big X on it. Because if you put it on the search, yes, you might find the dashboard, but the result might be hard to predict. It might take you to something that is speaking about the DDD dashboard and not necessarily the dashboard. So the first point there is to make sure that you're putting in the address right there at the top of the address bar. And after so doing, it will take you to this particular page. And it's just a simple matter of clicking on to the login right here where I'm indicating. And of course, if you are accessing from a mobile device, a phone or a pad or a tablet, it will take you to the same page. The only difference is you won't be seeing this button. What you'll be seeing is a slide of pages. And you want to wait for that slide until it gets to the slide that shows you this green button, and you can click on that and log on. Now, as soon as you log into the dashboard, as soon as you press the login button on our website, it will take you to a page that looks like this, where it will be asking for your username and your password. In training, I've had colleagues ask me, why do we need a username and password? Why don't you just let me go in without the complication of having to remember my username and password? Well, to that I say, colleagues, remember that the information on the other side of the dashboard is incredibly sensitive. And it is protected by law, the POPI Act to be exact. So we want to make sure that the person who's accessing the dashboard is a person who has the privileges to see that information. Hence, it's important that we all have a username that identifies us and a password that only we know, just like an ATM PIN. Only I know my ATM PIN. So when I access my account, the bank knows, okay, this has to be Musa because no one else has this password. It's the same thing with the dashboard. Colleagues, so as you can see, the first field will ask for your username. You punch that in there. Then you punch in your password. Then you click on login. If everything goes well, you should be seeing the dashboard. But a couple of things can go wrong even at this point. One of the things that can go wrong is that if you notice on your username and password, this person's name is name.surname. Notice something about the name and the surname. They have been capitalized, right? Which is to mean that the name has a capital and the surname has a capital. So if you're not aware of how case sensitive that field is, that might be the first place where things go wrong when we're putting in our login password. Secondly, if you notice, there is a dot in between the name and the surname. So there's no spaces in the username. There's no spaces. It's only a dot between what is typically your name and your surname. Now, I've seen people with different usernames. I've seen people usernames have their name dot surname and the number. I've seen people where it's initials dot surname. Either way, exactly how your username is how you should type it. If it is case sensitive, you want to mark those as you're typing. Then, of course, we come to the password. Now, this is where sometimes most of the confusion can come from. Remember, there's two passwords. There's a temporary password that you receive the very first time that you go on the dashboard. But that password, all that it does is it allows you to come up with a password of your own. So the password that we're looking for here is the password of your own, the password that only you know and no one else. And you can type that password in and you will see it will show black dots because it's encrypting or hiding the information so that it can be seen and stolen and copied. However, if you click on the I here, it will allow you to see your password and make sure that what you're typing is what you're going to type and it's coming through 100% okay. Then you hit the login, then it will take you through. Now, colleagues, what I'm seeing from our help desk is that this is not always the case. So what happens if I have forgotten my password, which is the next piece that I'm going to speak of, how to reset your password. And let's just take it to the screen again. So you've logged in and this is where you are. As you can see here, this is my username and my password that is being hidden. And if you notice there at the bottom, I've highlighted red, I forgot my username, and I've highlighted red, I forgot my password. So this is what will typically happen. If you put your password in incorrectly, it will say to you, either your password or your username is incorrect, right? It'll type that out in red. Now, if it's your password that you're not sure of, you will click here on the password button below the fields. But if it's your username that you're not sure of, you click on the I forgot my username. And then it will take you to a page where it will try and assist you so that it sends you that information and you can try and log in. So let's just say what I've forgotten is my username. So I would click on this I forgot my username button. And then from then on, it will take me to this page. And if you notice, this page is asking for your email address. Now, colleagues, let's just stop here for a second. The email address that it's requesting is not any email address that you might have. It is very specific. It is asking for the email address that you initially used to sign up for the dashboard. So when you are filling in your user access form, that email address that you put there as your reset password email address is the one that is being asked for, right? And upon putting on this email address, you hit enter, or you say, you hit enter, or you say send username, and it will then send that information to that email address, right? It will send it to the email address as you have typified here. However, if it is your password that you have forgotten, the process is not different, right? You will still press in the previous page that I forgot my password. At this point now, it will ask you for your username. And after putting your username and hitting enter on your keyboard, it will then send that information also in your email address. Let's see how that looks like. I have now taken a screenshot of an email from the dashboard itself after you have done that process, and you'll see it will say DDD Dashboard Admin, and it will be addressed to you. And in this case, it says dear, and then it will have your username. Your username and password of the DBE data-driven dashboard is as follows. And you'll see that it will have your username, again, being case sensitive, and it will also have your password. And let's just talk about the password for a second. If you notice there, typically it will be your username and a random number that it will generate. As you can see here, it's saying user, and in this time it's lowercase. Notice that on the password. User, and then the number 258282. Something else I want to talk about this password before we move on, and I think I've mentioned this before. Remember that this password is a one-time only password. That means upon using this password, it will take you to a page where it wants you to think of a password that only you can know. And upon putting in that password, then it will allow you to go back to the dashboard. Very important to understand that this password is not going to be your password on board. It's only going to be your password allowing you to reset and gain the password that you want. All right. And after you've taken this information, then you go back now to the screen that was asking for your username and password. You notice it's exactly the same. Again, you put in your username. Remember, I said it is case sensitive, so you are aware of that. And then you put in the temporary password in the password field and hit on click on. Just some things to be aware of, or some tricks and tips that we have found work. If I can just go back, allow me to go back one page. If you are proficient with copying and pasting, we highly recommend that you copy and paste your password. So if you go to this email, we recommend that you highlight username, right click, copy it, then go to the bottom here and go to back to your Chrome. Come here to the username, click there, right click there and say paste, and then paste the username there and do the same for the password. We highly recommend that to minimize errors, right? And then after that, you'll click on log in, or rather log on. So colleagues, one of the things that normally goes wrong here is that I've seen colleagues when they're logging in or when they are working on the dashboard is that they're double clicking, click, click. Now, colleagues, we don't want to do that when we're on a page. Double clicking only applies to desktop or it applies to your Windows. But when you're on a web page, you always single clicking. And how do you know that you're single clicking? If you notice that your cursor, I don't know whether or not you can see my cursor or not, but your cursor is usually an arrow. But when you move to a place that only wants one click, it will turn into a finger. Then you know over here, you just need to click once. The reason I'm making I'm focusing on us on this, remember this password is a once only password. So if you put the password in and you double click on logging in, you send the password twice. You send the password, then you send the blank. On the other side, the dashboard is only going to read the last one you sent, which is the blank. But now the funny thing is the one that's already went through, that one no longer works because it's designed to be a one-time password. Now, I do know that we are working on some changes to make that particular process a little bit easy. But for now, just bear that in mind that it's a one-time password until such a time we come up with that update. This is a one-time password and it will work better if you click once on log on rather than double clicking. And then you are then taken to this particular screen that is going to be now asking, okay, we verified that this is indeed you, okay, trying to log in. Now that we have, please create a new password that you will be able to remember. Now, as you can see here, the screen will have two fields. It will have a field at the top and a field at the bottom. And that field is to make sure that what you're typing is in fact correct, because you type it once and then you type it again to check, to make sure that it's the same password. That's the field, that's the page that you will be taken to thereafter. Now, I always recommend this, like the best passwords are the ones that are personal to you. So for me, an example of a password that will be personal to me, that will be easy to remember, is this one here, which is the name of my daughter and her age. And if you notice there, I've capitalized the J because that's one of the requirements, right? So your new password, if I can go back one page, it needs to be, if you can just look there at the new password rules, it needs to be alphanumeric or just numbers only. What does that mean? It means it wants letters and numbers or just numbers. And then here it says it needs to be more than 8 characters long. And you might say, wow, but my password is not exactly 8 characters long. That's perfect, as long as it's more than 8 characters. Anything less than 8 characters, it won't allow, but it needs to be more than. And one other rule that we haven't added here, it needs to be capitalized somewhere. So let's look at mine as an example. So WLA14, that's easy for me to remember. It's a number and letters as it's recommended. So colleagues, please, I recommend you do the same. I've seen some colleagues actually use the temporary password again as their password. Colleagues, that password will be difficult to remember because it's random numbers. You want something that you'll be able to remember very quickly. And I recommend using a name of a person that you care about. All right. Just going to read those tips again at the bottom. Do not double click when you're on the dashboard, single click only. Number 2, if you get an error message, open a new browser tab and log in using the permanent password. Let me just explain that one for a second. So you've put in your temporary password. It's taken you to this page. You've put in the password that you like, and you have put it in again to make sure that it's correct. And again, of course, colleague is going to show it as dots, just like on the ATM, to hide your password. So what you simply do is you click on the I there again, and by clicking on the I, it will allow you to see what it is that you're typing. It will no longer visually encrypt it, right? So you've typed in the password, and then you hit enter, and it hangs for a second, and then it gives you an error. This happens commonly because perhaps signal is not too great between you and our servers, or there's just a temporary slowdown in the signal with Vodacom or whoever is your data provider. So that happens. However, don't worry when this happens. When you see this error after putting your password, it means that your password is now live. It means that your password now works. All that you'll have to do is open a new tab, type in the username, and now your new password that you have created that only you know, and it will allow you to go back to the dashboard. And let's not concern ourselves, colleagues. I'll make sure that I demonstrate this later live so you see what I mean, okay? And then thirdly, as I've said, copying and pasting the reset password and username from the email is the best way to minimize. All right. Now that we know how to log on, we know how to reset. What if I'm already automatically logging in on my dashboard? I know that's the case with my laptop, is that sometimes I'm able to automatically log in. And I've forgotten my password. Yes, I still have access, but I have no idea what my password or my username might have been. All right. Now I'll be demonstrating to you how you are able to change that information. Okay. So as you can see here, this is a screenshot of my access to the DDD dashboard. So like I said, I'm already having access and I want to be able to change my password from here. And perhaps maybe I also want to be able to change my email address. Maybe the email address where my password is being reset is an email address that I no longer utilize. How am I able to change my email address or my password in the DDD dashboard? You start here on the black bar, and if you go right to the end of the black bar, you will see there that there's a cog, which, as we know, commonly has to do with either options or properties or settings. If you click on that, if you go to on the menu there, if you go to the item that says My Account, and you click on that, it will take you to this particular screen here. Now, this is the information that you provided for us when you are registering to the dashboard using the user access form. So check there that everything is still in place, that your logging entry is correct, your specialization is correct, and your designation, more importantly. Colleagues, if you go in fact, I would recommend us to do that. Please let's check, go to My Account and check to make sure that our specialization and designation is correct. If that's not the case, I'll be showing you people that you can speak to in a later slide to make sure that you are properly designated. So there, my first name, my username, my work telephone number, and my cell phone telephone number, make sure those are correct on your end. And of course, I've made mine zeros because of course, I wanted to protect that information. However, because I'd rather you reach out to the numbers that I will be showing if you need assistance in a later slide. And here we come to the email address. You see the email address with the star on it is the email address where your DDD communication is going to, including invitation to this webinar. However, also this is the email address where if you should reset your password, this is the email address that we assume is yours. If that's no longer the case, you can change your email address there. However, if you're concerned about the email address being a personal email address and you still want to use your official email address, you can still put that on alternate email address. It doesn't matter which email address you use. What we recommend is it be the kind of email address that you have easy access to, so that you'll be able to reset your password, right? So that's where you would change your information, including your email. Now, colleagues, let's hurry up right to the bottom there. There's a space there that says change your password, cancel, and save. If you click on change your password, it will then allow you to do just that, which is to change your password. The rules are still the same, length of 8 to 64 and must be alphanumeric. So you see there, it will ask for your current password, which you will input there. And then it will ask you to repeat the password now that you want to be your password going forward by putting it on new password and then you retype it. If you hit on save, if all is well, it will then be your new email your new password going forward. All right. And that's how you change your password in DDD itself. Now, I just want to recap on some tips and also introduce some new ones. In fact, when you're finding yourself struggling to log into your dashboard, I would really recommend that you come to this tips summary and go through it like a checklist, and I guarantee you that you will succeed on logging into the dashboard if you do so without assistance, without having to wait on the phone for someone to assist you. All right. First of all is place the address in the address bar, not the search. Very, very key. Number two, make sure that the password is adhering to the rules of being case sensitive. Where there's a capital, make sure that there's a capital, particularly with your username and password. And of course, there are no spaces, as the next point will let us know. And fourthly, the new password must be alphanumeric and at least 8 characters long and at least 1 capital. Okay, we mentioned this, that you don't want to be double clicking anywhere on the dashboard, because if you do so, it will duplicate what it's sending, and that might come up with unpredictable results. All right. If you do get an error tab after you have created your new password, open a new browser tab and log in using that new password. So literally start from over. You can even close down your Chrome if you want, reopen it and go back to the dashboard. And that will allow you now that password to go through, right? Copying and pasting the username and password is the best way to minimize errors. Right? And now, colleagues, I will be checking with Jerry if there's any questions while I open up the live demonstration and we can see some of these principles at play. Jerry, any questions thus far?
Thank you, Musa. At the moment, we do not have any questions. Can I just encourage the participant today to use the Q&A? If you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, just put it in the Q&A and we'll answer it as best as possible. Thank you. Over to you, Musa.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Jerry. So I am now, let's try that again. I'd like to share my Chrome. Right, there we go. Where is the Chrome? There it is. Let's share the Chrome. So this is what will happen if you open Chrome or the browser of your choice. It will land you in the screen. And remember, the first thing you want to do is put in the password, the address to the dashboard. Remember, I said we're not putting it here on search. We know what we're doing. We're not looking for the address. We know exactly where it is. So we put it up here. So you go www.dddashboard.co. And let me just stop right here. If you notice, as you are typing, it will try and autocomplete for you. Now I'm thinking about my days in IT when I was studying IT. Anything that is autocomplete, you ought not do it. Do not autocomplete your password. Do not autocomplete the address, because the results may be unpredictable. If you have ever put in a wrong dashboard address, it will try and remember that wrong password address. So I really recommend that we type it out ourselves, the whole thing, and just take the time. Just check if that's correct. www.dbe. No, it's not correct. I made a comma there instead of a dot. And then I hit enter. Then another thing, so sometimes when you, all right, let me allow that point. Let me hold on to that point until we see our password. And this is our webpage as DDD. And if you notice, just on the side, in the future, you will be able to register from the dashboard by clicking on this banner here. If you just say click here, it will allow you to register without having to wait for the email, because sometimes we target our emails to specific users. But if you want to be there, even if you're not the intended user, you're more than welcome to log in. And that's live from now by simply clicking on this banner. But not what I want to talk to you about today. So you land here on the page, and if you notice here, there's a big logon. That when you click on that logon, it will then take you to the dashboard, right? Now, if you notice, after I clicked, nothing happened. So there might be a temptation to click again. Remember, colleagues, I said, if you click anything twice, it will resend information. If you notice that your tab is spinning up there, that means you've successfully clicked. We're just waiting for the page to respond to us. Now, here's another thing. So if you notice here, it's remembering my username and my password. I really recommend, colleagues, that we shy away from that. There's been quite a lot of uptake in data being breached by companies as big as Capitec. So one of the ways that happens is that it's that autocomplete. So we don't want to use autocomplete when we're logging into anything that has we want to make sure that we remember that information. So, for example, so as you can see, it's Musa, capital M, dot Simelane, capital S, and I type in the password here. That's my password. If you notice, it's protecting me from everyone watching the Zoom by not showing the password, but if I click on the I here, it will allow me to see and make sure that it's correct. And if I hit log on, it will allow me to go through. So I'm just gonna make one of the characters in my password incorrect, and then I'm gonna click log on. So this is what will happen if either your username or in this case, your password is incorrect. The username or password provided is incorrect. When that happens, you wanna go through those tips that I shared. Am I observing that it's alphanumeric, that it's capitalized, that it's case sensitive? Am I making sure that there's only a dot and there are no spaces? What about my password? Is this indeed the password that's mine? Did I make sure that where there's capital letters, it's capital letters? Is it alphanumeric? And if I've done that and I click and it's still saying that the information is incorrect, then I can now begin the process of recovering either my password or my username. Now I'm pretty sure of my username. It's always been my name and my surname capitalized, and I'm sure that's correct. So I'm gonna go click on I forgot my password. But for you, if you're not even sure of your username, you can click on I forgot my username. So let's start with this one. If you click I forgot my username, as you can see, it immediately takes you to this screen, and it's asking for the email address that, and if you notice, I have two email addresses that are showing up here even, because I do have two email addresses personally. So it's wanting to know which email address did I register with on DDD, and I can type in that email address. It's my work email address, making sure that it's 100% correct. I'll double check it, and then I hit send username, and then it will go to the emails and take me through giving me a reset password. Now, if I've forgotten my password, which is the case here, I'll click I forgot my password. In this case, it will just ask for my username, which I'm very certain about. And then if I click reset password, same thing, it will go to my email address and send me the combination of my username and my password. Now, and that will allow me to log into the dashboard. Now, colleagues, I want to show you how to update your information. Remember, I said when you land on the dashboard, okay, here on the black bar, you come here on the settings and you click my account. Okay, my Zoom window is on the way. Let me just move that out of the way. And you click my account, and if you notice, it will show the information about your account. And I said, colleagues, I did say that if your specialization is incorrect when you go to this area, I will be showing you how exactly you can who to contact to get that corrected and sorted. As you can see, that's my name, my surname, phone number, and if I'm wanting to change my email address, I change on this field here if this is not the email address I like. So I can make it that email address, and maybe I can make my new leader's email address to be the alternate one. This is telling the system, I want my email address for password resets to show up on this email, right? But I don't want to save that option. I'll just cancel at the bottom. Now I want to show you something else that's very important here and key. If I go right to the bottom of this black page and I click on change password, it will take me to this field where it will allow me to change the password. But it wants my old password first, then the new password that I want to think of. Maybe my old password was too complicated. It was a whole bunch of numbers, and I want to use an easy one, something I can remember, the name of my son and his birthday. I can do that and change that password. And I need to put the password again to be the same thing. And if all is correct and I hit save, that will be my new password going forward. Of course, I'm going to cancel because I don't want to change my password at this stage, all right? So colleagues, allow me to switch back now to my PowerPoint. And basically that's it. That's how we will be logging on to the dashboard, and that's how we're going to be resetting our password. Let me just go back to my PowerPoint. Here we are. and get to a point where we are in questions and answers. Are there any questions, Jerry, so far with regards to this process?
No, Musa, thank you so much. So far, we still don't have any questions. Again, if you have any questions, if you got stuck, if you had any challenges before, use the Q&A button at the bottom there to post your questions and we will answer them. While you guys are still posting your questions, one thing also to mention is that when you are changing your password, so obviously you'll put in your old password and then it says you need to confirm your password. One thing to remember is that do not copy and paste your new password. So the way it says retype your new password, because number one, if you make a mistake while putting in your new password and you copy and paste it, you will also copy and paste that mistake. So to retype it is just for you to confirm that I do know that password and I know what the password I'm putting in, and you are basically verifying that the password you're using, you are aware of it. And also when you do that, or even when you create your new password, the very first time after requesting for a new password, the one thing that works the most is to write it down. So when you write it down, you already have a point of reference. Because what I've seen is that most of the time, you're thinking that, okay, it's a very easy password, I'm going to remember it. But then the moment you change your password, we know maybe you have a different password for something else, you become very confused. So, but then when you put it on paper and you know what your password is, it's very hard for you to forget, especially just your password. So do not put your username and password close to each other, because also it's very easy to remember your username. It's your name dot your surname, right? Sometimes it's the name of your school and something else. That's fine. It's easy to remember. Just don't put them together for security purposes, just in case someone gets access to that piece of paper or the book that you wrote it in. But also always write it down so that you never forget it. Even when you forget it, you already know what you will find your password. So I just wanted to remind our colleagues out there on how to make sure they do this successfully.
Thank you so much. Very, very important point, colleagues. Jerry's absolutely right. You don't want to recopy something you don't remember. And of course, remember the reason we want you to have a password that only you can know is to really make sure that it's for us to make sure that the person who's accessing the data is you. So it's quite important. Colleagues, if you notice, we have launched the polls. Please engage with that poll and answer those questions. I can see people are already answering it. Please just rate us so that we go back and look at that and make sure that we improve and update the offering that we have here on the webinar. Colleagues, you've been very quiet. There hasn't been hands raised or questions. It's either I've explained extremely well to the point where there's no questions required, or the nature of your question is maybe complex and maybe not comfortable asking it. That's fine. Either way, I want us to be aware that within 24 hours, we will be sending this slide, the recording of this session that will allow you to practice this new skill of remembering and resetting our passwords. It's really not something that's strange should you forget your password. I forget my Gmail password all the time. What's important is, do I have the skills to recover it in that eventuality? With that, I'm seeing the polls are at 64%. I want to thank you, colleagues, very much for attending this session. Look forward to seeing you in future sessions. Also remember, from now on, if you do not find that webinar invite to the session, you can go to our website and you'll see there that there will be a link that will show you how to register if you have not been targeted for it. Now, this next screen is showing our colleagues on the ground in a province near you who are always ready and always willing to assist. And more importantly, I want to point you to the help desk. If you find that perhaps, for example, your designation is not correct, we do encourage you to email us so that we can correct that. But of course, depending on which province you are in, your MS might also be a good place to go to be assisted with those changes. With that, thank you very much for attending. Jerry, any final words of thanks?
Thank you, Musa. Well, we do have a question here that just came in from Mantebele Lonia Tau.
Oh, good.
The question is it possible to log in from multiple devices?
Would you like to take that one, Jerry?
Yes, I can most definitely. Yes, you can log in using multiple devices. You can use your phone, you can use your laptop. So it's not a program that's installed on your computer or your cell phone. So just the way how you access your Facebook or your emails, you can go and open your Google Chrome, long as you have an internet browser, which is Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, which are recommended. You can still use the other ones, but then those are the recommended internet programs that you use to access the dashboard. You can get your access anywhere using those devices. As long as you have internet connectivity, you should be okay. But I think that was the last question or the only question today. With that being said, thank you for attending today's webinar. Hopefully you've learned something new. By looking at the polls, I think a lot of people did learn something new. I'd just like to encourage you that please use the dashboard. You can never break the system, no matter how hard you try. I love it. Hopefully you'll get some new knowledge and a great experience from the dashboard itself. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry, for that intro, for that outro. Really appreciated you attending, colleagues, today. And with that, I adjourn the meeting until we meet again. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.